Good morning. I'm your host, Perry Leong. I'm part of the Great Lakes Advancement Chair as part of the MCC Advancement Committee. On today, I have my counterpart on as well is Troy Smith from the President Ford Division. He is on. Our staff advisor Corey is on. I also have a number of panelists that can help answer some of the questions on today's presentation. They include, of course, Midge Savage, who you see, she is actually our MCC Special Needs Chair. She's also part of the National Special Needs and Disability Committee, and she will be our primary presenter on that part. But we also have Jim Knoll here from National. He's going to be able to answer some questions. Again, he's part of the group working with Midge, so he certainly can answer any questions that may come up. I also, for part of the Scalp book, I have Dave Weatherwax out of the Sunrise District, who's a Scalp book expert champion. He'll be on to answer questions around Scalp book. And I also have a couple folks that will be joining us. As you know, we just rolled out the internet rechartering that opened up yesterday. And I do have Fred Farnell, who is a district commissioner in one of our districts. He's done some stuff on internet rechartering. And hopefully Wayne Hastings, who is the division recharting champion, will be on along with Denise Ward, who's actually responsible for recharting for one of our districts. So with that in mind, we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. Anyway, one of the things that I want to put a plug in for is as adults, if you go into your My.Scouting, you'll notice there's a diversity, equity, inclusion training that's been released about a month. We're certainly encouraging folks to go ahead and take that training. And by the way, this will be one of the requirements for the Meri badge counselor for the citizenship and the society. So anyway, that's right at the top. When you log into My.Scouting, you can see that. It's not very long. Encourage everyone to take that. Next slide. So I mentioned the citizenship and the society Meri badge is rolling out. We're actually waiting for final information to come to each of the councils so we can prepare for that. We are looking to roll that out in November. There are going to be some special requirements to become a Meri badge counselor for this badge. And I mentioned one of them is the DEI training that exists. There's some additional training that will be coming as part of the package for the rollout. That will be required. And probably the normal information if you are a Meri badge counselor that you have. So we fully expect that beginning in July 2022, this Meri badge will be one of the required ones. If you have a board review after that date, it will then become 14 required Meri badges and 7 non-EGLE required. So next slide. So there's been a lot of effort. I want to thank Troy and Corey, who's done a lot of the heavy lifting. The Advancement Committee, as we move forward as part of MCC, we've tried to update. We have a website on the Michigan Crossroads site. It's on the resources in advancement. If you go in there, you'll find a bunch of information, but I wanted to point out that in there, the new steps to EGLE that we presented at our last symposium is now on that site. In addition, the 2 forms we talked about for your EGLE verifications on there and your post-EGLE board. Everything can be uploaded and sent in that way. And will be our process going forward. If you have any questions, please look at it, give us a call. But that's going to be your one-stop shopping for all your advancement resources. And a lot of nice work done by Corey and of course our marketing group and with Chris in putting that together. So I'm very proud of that. Take a look at it, you'll see a bunch of information that you need. Next. All right, at this point, let me introduce our speaker. Next, actually is Midge Savage. Midge is part of the Great Lakes Division, resides in the Mohican District. She's been involved working with special needs for a long, long time. She's actually one of our resources on the Great Lakes Size Division in terms of our advancement committee. As I mentioned, I'm going to turn that over to her. She's got a pretty nice presentation. We're actually very pleased and pleasant to have Midge do this for us. I know there's been a lot of requests about understanding what is around advancement with special needs and the special needs process. So Midge, I'm going to turn that over to you.
All righty, I'm working on it.
All right, that's okay.
Let's try it this way. Ah, miracle. Welcome. I want to thank all of you for your time this morning. My aim is to give you an overview. We're not going to be able to answer all your questions. The chat room is a vehicle to put some things down. I would ask that you not put in much, if any, personally identifying information, but do give us a way to contact you. There's a general theme coming up. We'll talk about hypotheticals, but respecting people's privacy, we don't want to get into details in this kind of thing. The outcomes for this particular session, my hopes for you to become aware of resources, not to remember them or know what they are, but to know where to find them, to know how to seek support, and become familiar with the process for registration beyond the age of eligibility and using an individual Scout plan, and to differentiate between accommodations and modifications, and how they fit into and differ in what you can and can't do with both advancement and programming.
You are not sharing your screen.
Oh.
Technology is a wonderful thing.
Right. I did share screen. Anyone got some ideas? Let me exit. Worked when I tried it through. Hi, everybody. I push my share screen button.
And now you push this little button over here.
All right.
And
Woohoo!
wrong screen.
Right. Well, we'll get there. That's the Ring Central meeting. Well, let me.
Stop screen share.
All right.
Now screen share again.
Okay.
Try that little. Oh, wait a minute.
That's scary. It's
Well,
just,
that should be your home screen.
yeah, well, it's not. New share. Well, let me try one other thing and then we'll just have a nice chat, I guess.
You got the wrong thing on the background when you share it. That's part of the problem.
That's,
All this crud. All right, where's your?
well, let's go to recents.
Oh, you need it from recents.
Wow, it was down there, but it disappeared.
All
It's
right.
gonna say my October PPP right here, unless it's virtual. Try this one.
What is that one?
No.
Nope, not that one. All right.
All right, and I should be able to start shy. What are you seeing now?
They're not saying anything yet.
Okay.
As we still have to share.
And do I just start
There you go.
Shidestone?
I think you got that now.
Now we can see
Okay.
it.
Yep.
Okay, click on this little guy right. Oh, no. That guy.
Okay.
There you go. You're good.
All right. We talked about that. You're going to know where to find them. know between accommodations and modifications and how they fit into advancement and programming. And I separate that because advancement is what we're here to talk about today, but our youth with special needs are all part of scouting and all we do. So you can do some things within your unit with your youth that are not strictly related to advancement, and a lot of the programming and activities that we involved in are, and there's a greater range of the changes and accommodations you can do. We're gonna take a quick look at this. Through scouting, people who are hearing, vision impaired, young people, greater health, happiness, and hope, take a glance at this. Wonderful things they're able to do, their cheeriness and eagerness. They do not want any more special treatment than is absolutely necessary. And scouting helps by assisting them in worldwide fellowship. Some of this language should sound familiar to you because scouting has 100+ years history of inclusion. Those were Baden-Powell's words in 1919. And while some of the language is a little stilted, they certainly apply to our population today. There is a range of special needs. Depending on what research project you look at, we can expect that there are between 6 and 12% of our population that we serve have some type of special need. And the other thing I'd like you to remember is that also applies to our adult volunteers. We have a range of parents, guardians, adult leaders who have special needs as well. And we need to be cognizant of that as we work with them. We're inclusive. There are various accommodations. Because someone has special needs, they do not need to join a special needs unit. Mostly they'll join the unit from the school or the church or the civic organization or wherever is close to home that has some parental ties, whatever the Scout Me In button takes us to. They're not all going to be eligible for, these fancy little letters, a registration beyond the age of eligibility that's available to our most severely impaired youth. The severity of the disability and the needs of the family and the Scout determine the type of registration. However, we're a group of volunteers and each unit can only do so much. And just as for any Scout, some units and a Scout are not the perfect match. That can also be true for special needs youth as well. If you look at the Guide to Advancement, which you're all familiar with, that's our little Bible for dealing with many things, special needs included. There are categories of disabilities. We're familiar with autism, blind, sight impaired, many of them. But if you look at the list, and these are specifically listed in the rules, you're probably thinking something might be missing. Do you see ADHD? Do you see learning disabled? They're not there as a category unto themselves. And they're usually not categories that are eligible for special, for registration beyond the age of eligibility. But that doesn't mean there aren't special needs and that you may be challenged to find ways to best work with them. I'd like you, if you've got a pen in your hand, and if not, your finger will do, I'd like for you with your dominant hand to write out the word Mississippi. Scratch it out. Now with your non-dominant hand, try it again. Mississippi. M-I-S-S-I-S-S-I-P-P-I. 4 simple letters. Think for a minute the difference you felt in doing it with your dominant hand and your non-dominant hand. You know the word. We've all played the how do you spell Mississippi game. But I bet it took you more concentration, more effort, And the product was not as great when you did it with your non-dominant hand. That's just a little sample of what goes on with our special needs youth in scouting. It's not many times that they can't achieve the task. Most of you probably got Mississippi to be fairly readable, but it took more effort and you might not have been as happy with your production. We need to think about how we can support people to do their best. Registration beyond the age of eligibility. There's a whole section in the Guide to Advancement. There's a piece in the appendix. What I want you to be aware of and take away from today is that it's not automatic. Every youth with an individual education plan from school is not eligible for registration beyond the age of eligibility. And it's not the decision of one person. It's a council team and it goes to the advancement committee for final recommendation and then approval by the Scout exec or the designee. It's intended for significant impairments, does not change requirements for any merit badge or ranks beyond first class. Having an IEP, as we said, doesn't automatically qualify. Registration beyond the age of eligibility, permanent disability. Someone with Down's syndrome is cognitively challenged is probably going to be eligible. Someone who has significant loss of sight would be eligible. Youth with traumatic brain injury. Many types of cerebral palsy, something that greatly limits life participation, and most things require some type of an adaptation. Could also be an emotional or anxiety impairment if they're significant. Again, council approval is necessary. Your go-to place is the form found in the appendix. What I would encourage you is to download it from scouting.org. There is a second page to a piece of it that does not show up in the appendix of the Guide to Advancement. It is a PDF, a fillable PDF. Eligibility continues. It is not an extension. This should not be a point of discussion for a 17-and-a-half-year-old who's made rank pretty regularly like the rest of his unit and suddenly wants an extension. Registration beyond the age of eligibility is not an extension for Eagle. It's an extension to participate in the scouting journey, and it has no endpoint. As long as the individual remains eligible, they are eligible to participate as a youth and to continue working on rank. However, once they are 18, they do need to complete an adult application form. And in most cases, the youth protection, or if they are so significantly impaired that that's not possible with the, to do, there is a form for an exemption to that, and it continues. These are some of the things you need, and I don't want you to be sitting here scribbling this down or thinking that you have to remember them. Just know it exists, know it's a process, and you need to take it step by step. Basically, we're saying the parent or guardian wants this to happen. The unit is willing to continue to work with the scout. We have a current membership. We have the health and medical record that you would use for camp. There's some kind of qualified health professional that substantiates the disability. The unit wants to continue working. And then if they have an IEP, an individual education plan from school, that's a very important part of the piece. because it tells you the type and kinds of service that a youth is receiving that helps you make the determination as the advancement committee whether this person is eligible or not. Ideally, and we all know we don't live in the world of perfect, but if we did, someone from the unit would have contact with your special needs liaison, or someone is knowledgeable with liaison in your advancement committee at the district level. If you have questions, you'd contact our special needs committee. We might make some calls, offer some suggestions. It is good to get some sense of whether the youth is going to qualify or not before you ask parents to supply all this personal documentation. It just makes sense. We don't copy or dispense with this. Someone makes a summary of the information we have, and it's shared with the advancement committee. When we were meeting in person, the copies were there to look at, but all this documentation and personal information about the youth and their family is not willy-nilly sent out all over with copies in oodles of places. Keep one copy of it, becomes the resource document, then the committee person will forward it when it goes on to the registration thing. Again, approvals, registrar process. This is the first sample page from what the back looks like in the appendix to the Guide to Advancement. Looks pretty simple, but those 6 items are pretty hefty in information. Accommodations versus modifications. People use them interchangeably. They're really not. Accommodations is the how versus the what. How you do something. The situation matters, and one size does not fit all. And it also makes a difference on who and why you're doing it. If you have some behavior issues, it may affect how a youth and when a youth comes to participate in a unit event. That really isn't part of rank advancement, isn't a merit badge, so you can modify that any way you want. Youth who don't do well in unstructured situations might do well not to come too early to meetings, but be ready to participate in your opening if you have a structured opening. Maybe they can always have a part to do. Maybe they're the youth that needs to stand at the front of the line or the back of the line or next to an adult. In Cub Scouts, it's pretty easy. Accommodations are do your best. Now, that doesn't mean if you don't come to meetings and don't participate and don't attempt, you're going to automatically get rank and move through your adventures. But it does mean that if you give it your best effort, you're well on your way to meeting those requirements. Accommodations is assisting with a task. It's not changing what's required. I use the example, and you probably remember it from Brian on scouting, the 3 brothers who were significantly visually impaired who earned the Astronomy merit badge. How did they do it? They had someone who was willing to punch out, like Braille, but not really, but a tactile reproduction of the stars in the night sky, put the constellations up in the correct position, and after much learning, they were able to feel the arrangement of the constellations and identify them. The task was what? Identify constellations in a night sky. So this lets your creativity come about, holding true to the meaning of the task and the fulfillment. Providing additional supports in order to help the scout achieve their goal. may mean breaking it down into small pieces, maybe doing it multiple times, may mean really involving the parent in a lot of pre-trial at home. The other thing to remember is that we want to be as inclusive as possible so all of our youth can have a successful scouting journey. That does not mean you, Mr. or Mrs. Scoutmaster, have to do it all yourself. It means that together your team is going to come up with some ideas on what can work and what doesn't work, and you'll be continually refining it as you go along. Kinds of accommodations that can be done are in timing, scheduling, the setting that you do it in, the presentation, the response. Those are the official, if you look in teaching strategies or pedagogy, those will tell you what you can change. Timing, you can use electronic devices or assistants. You could give more time. You could use a scribe. You could use voice to text for responses. If you have a youth who is truly has very limited verbal ability, you might use multiple choices, yes or no, as you discover tasks. Sometimes you may do hand over hand where you actually guide their hand. You might want to break it down into really small chunks so that they do a little bit this time and a little bit the next time. That can apply both to your official advancement activities, but also to anything else your troop is doing, from building s'mores to learning to pack a backpack for a hike, little bit at a time. Scheduling, coordination, if youth is taking medication or their concentration or the environment. Some of us are morning people, some of us are afternoon people, a few of us are night owls. You're not going to be doing this at 2 o'clock in the morning, but if you know that you have someone who is more alert at the beginning of your meeting, then that's probably the time to put in the most demanding of materials that you're going to cover at a particular meeting. And this brings us, many of these ideas apply to everyone's needs. And if you employ many of them, you'll have a smoother running, more efficient meeting in many respects. Many times this is where fidgets come in, the little spinners. Many times they need a comfort tool, and it can be something in their pocket. You get to decide what your tolerance for distraction is. But if you can tolerate it, this is a good time for allowing the fidget tools, the worry stones, those kinds of things. There are also some people who have discovered that some kids need to have earphones, and that makes them attend more to block out the noise. And they're more used to doing that since we've had so much online schooling. Schedule the task when the medication is most effective if you know they're on medication. Provide frequent breaks. That's good for all of us. You don't want to be lecturing at them like I am at you for this period of time. Read your room. You know, when they get distracted, it's time to do something else. That's more so for the types of special needs individuals that have limited attention or limited cognition. Scout has difficulty focusing in a group setting and distracting other youths. They may need personal assistance, including supervision and clues. You might have, and it doesn't all have to be the Scoutmaster. It could be another adult in the room. It could be a buddy. It could be the simple thing of asking, do you need to get a drink of water? Do you need a break? You can develop your own personal cues with individuals to know that they need a timeout or a break. And to have a timeout space, not as a punishment, but as a refreshing stand is good for everyone, not just the identified special needs youth. And remember, if the numbers are right and we have some soft data to suggest that the number of scouts with disabilities is greater than the typical population, there's someone in your unit, and probably some ones, who need some of this adjusting. Give them preferential seating, and that isn't always right next to you. Sometimes it's by the door, sometimes it's so that they have more space. I bet almost every one of you have in your unit a young person who has no sense of personal space. They're always stepping on your toes, or they stand too far away from you to really carry on a conversation. Think of that as you're assigning people to sit in the circle. You know, if they're poking at each other, they need to sit a little further apart. Scouts that have specific sensory needs, you might want to change the group size. If large crowds bother and you have one of the very large units, you might want to find some quiet space or small sizes to kind of break that group size down. In presentation, you need to determine the rate of a new skill and how you're going to introduce it. Again, good learning for everyone, but you may need to direct it to a particular youth and slow it down. Some youth are so overwhelmed by the end task that they can't see each little step. This is the time to reassure them that we're going to break it down. We're going to do it one at a time. You don't expect it to be mastered in one setting. That's why we have cycle of learning. You know, do it, come back and do it again, and spiral on up. You may need to teach some prerequisites, and when I say you, I mean someone. I don't want you sitting here saying, in my hour a week, I have to do all this too. There are people that can help you. It is reasonable to expect some support from family or siblings. You may find other youth in your unit. You may find someone who is a reluctant, doesn't really want to be a leader, but might want to work with individuals who need a little more time to learn some of the prerequisites or the basics, kind of like a learning circle. Auditory and visual cue cards. Some people have written schedules for their meeting. My caution with that is if that fits your personality and the way your unit runs, and you have a very anxious, attention deficit youth or autistic youth, you've got to be able to take their response when you're off schedule. So my personal suggestion is that you talk about a sequence of things rather than put a specific time on it, because then if you don't start on time, you're building in for further confusion and frustration for both yourself and the youth. Adapt existing materials. Don't go out and buy new. Find out what they use in school. If a youth is using a text-to-speech reader in school, they may be able to bring it home on the weekend. Your unit is not fiscally responsible for providing expensive equipment for the youth that are participating. But if you can find a way to get it on loan from the school or use it for a particular time, there's absolutely no harm in asking, and everything to be gained if you do. If the scout has sensory or physical disability, there are limits on their ability to respond and memorize and etc. Allow them to use the scribe for answers, or do a tape recording, respond orally, use yes and no, use tokens for responding, limit their choices. You're not changing the end aim of learning a particular skill or task by limiting the choices of answers as you go around to the task. Some youth have just a tremendous difficulty with open-ended questions. They really know it, they just can't get it together to tell you about it. So giving them choices helps them solidify the information and lets you know what it is they do know. Modifications, on the other hand, are the what of the things. You can't change the requirements for any merit badge. And this is often a difficult concept for some of your parents to understand, because so often in school with youth with significant disabilities, things are modified on a regular basis. Maybe they only do the even number math problems. Maybe they only have to do half the distance requirement. In a merit badge, if it says A, B, C, and D, 1, 2, 3, 4, those have to be attempted, those have to be completed to a point of mastery at some point. Doesn't have to be all done in one. Youth, we've had some youths take some merit badges 4 times. Remember, once a segment is learned, it's learned. So the next time they're doing another part of it. That's how we have some of our 40 and 50-year-old, at this point still adult males, getting Eagle. Takes them a while, 1 badge, 1 step at a time. It says show or demonstrate, that's what they have to do. But you can think out of the box about how to meet the requirements. You can make accommodations as to how they come to that end. But you don't say, oh, that's too hard for him, he doesn't have to do that. Or in a group merit badge setting, he was here, didn't do anything, but he was here, so we'll give it to him. That's not the point of success for any youth in the scouting program. And it's definitely not the intention for those with special needs. But we do break it down. We do take it in steps, just like punching those constellations on a paper plate. Remember, they completed the task in the end. What was the individual task? Identify the night sky. There wasn't any modification. It wasn't just tell me there's stars in the night sky. They actually had to somehow equate, Orion's belt with the punch holes. Advancement flexibility. Youth with disabilities may qualify for limited flexibility and advancement in according to the guided advancement. You don't have to be registered beyond the age of eligibility to be eligible for that. Varies by the program and focuses of support on the how and not the what. A big one is often swimming for first and second class. The merit badge says you have to swim so far and do those things. And in order to get that merit badge, you do. But in order to do the swimming requirements for rank requirements, there are things that can happen. You can do it in a shallow end of the pool. You can do it in a heated motel pool. You can usually have floaties. There are lots of things that are reasonable for youth. You can attempt the swim test. You can demonstrate some of the life-saving, throw a line and that kind of thing from the dry land. So short ones, an easy one that doesn't require approval is hike a certain distance. If we have a youth who's in a wheelchair, their means of mobility is that wheelchair. So wheeling themselves, or if it's a power one, that far meets that kind of requirement. If you have someone who has asthma and doesn't have the stamina to do it, keeping a record of doing it in a certain amount of time. I've got someone who has terrible mold and allergy. Maybe they need to do it in their own neighborhood or walk in a mall, depending what the environment is. It's not going to get you the hiking merit badge, but there are ways to look at rank requirements that often can be done. The request, if needed, is made to the Council Advancement Committee, usually first through your district committee, following council procedures. It's all documented in the Guide to Advancement. You must state what has already been completed and suggest what the alternatives are. And it's not limited to scouts registered beyond the age of eligibility. However, they still might need to provide a medical documentation if it's severe allergies that prevent them from doing one of the rank requirements, or if there is a physical disability in terms of spasticity, uncontrolled muscle movements, that kind of thing. So it's not automatic, but it is much easier to obtain than the tight rule on merit badges. A scout has been diagnosed as having a disability, may request changes. Approval goes, once completed, forwarded. You get the thing. I'm going to remind you too that you can get a copy of this presentation if for any reason you want it, and you can always contact myself or Jeff Newell on the west side of the state, and we'll be happy to work with you and do some things. Alternative merit badges. They're available to any scout with reason. Again, don't have to be registered beyond the age of eligibility to do that, but does have to be substantiated and should give a similar learning experience. My caution to you as you begin this journey with the scout and their family is be careful what merit badges they are earning, because you can't go back and do a replacement that you've already earned and used for another rank. So if you might want to lay out your possible substitutions and alternative merit badges early on so you don't get in a bind about what's available to substitute. A place to look for information on that besides your own creativity is the list that's the alternative merit badges for Eagle, but the rationale in there could be used at any level. I put this in here now because while not all youth are going to want an application for Eagle, the substitutions that are suggested might be appropriate at other rank levels as well. So that's a good resource for that. We've talked a lot about what a scout needs and that there are many ways and creative ways to meet those needs. And you need to be careful that you're meeting your own needs along the line. But it is something to step back and think how challenging some things are for some of our youth that we take for granted. So let's think about walking a mile in someone else's shoes. And particularly when you're dealing with challenging situation, often related to behavior. There are 4 C's I think you need to keep in mind and will help you to get through the situation. Communication. Don't mumble to yourself and complain to your leaders. Communicate clearly with everybody up front what the concern is. Consistency. If you have rules in your troop and a code of conduct, make sure they apply equally to everybody, and that is conveyed to your families. Most of us are not real good mind readers until someone gets so annoyed that it's pretty hard to ignore their annoyance. Don't let it get that far. Have conversations with people regularly about both successes and challenges, and celebrate the small things. Rank is wonderful, finishing a merit badge is good, but so is getting the first half of a square knot done correctly. Don't overdo it, but do recognize progress and see it as that, a real celebration. So all that's very nice, but what now? You're going to identify the parties, the involved are going to identify and engage. If you're complaining and the parent's complaining and you aren't talking together, we don't have communication. Identify the challenge and investigate options. Develop a plan. Sounds good. Wish I could tell you it was only going to happen once. But you're going to initiate it, review it, revise, and repeat. This whole thing is a team effort. There's something that Scouts have developed for us as a tool. It is not required. It's not a legal document, but it does give you a sense of a neutral starting place rather than a he said, she said, or I'm so angry I need something done today. It's found in the appendix. It's a useful tool. It's not a requirement. If you go to the forms, there is a downloadable PDF one. It has broad application. It's not limited to rank advancement and to merit badge issues. I highly suggest if you have someone with food allergies that you have a Scout plan in place. So that everyone knows what's going to happen about, you know, peanuts or tree nuts or whatever the food is that someone's allergic to. It's useful for health and safety and behavior concerns. If you have a wanderer, what's going to happen? What's the protocol for knowing the whereabouts of Timmy? It is a teamwork product. It's not an imposed contract. We all fall victim to the, if God put me in charge, I do this. That's not what an individual Scout plan is. It's something that the Scout, whenever possible, the family and the unit work out together. It never contradicts to the guide to advancement. You can't sit down with a Scout plan and say, Timmy is significantly autistic and has allergies and an anxiety disorder. Might qualify for registration beyond the eligibility, might not. But we're going to put in a Scout plan that he only has to do half of the requirements for every merit badge. Nope, why I've told you to be creative, you can't be that creative. You need to follow the rules, but you can do many things and it is helpful. Depending on the reason for it, you may require additional documentation such as a medical diagnosis or a school IEP, and it may require an advancement. The implementation of it may require an advancement committee approval. That would be if part of the individual Scout plan talked about a youth needing different merit badges. Individual Scout plan can be used for any Scout. Told you where to find it. I have a little ad here, and this is from my personal experience. Download it for the complete and current forms. If you, and go to the Form Central to do that, to get the whole thing. Developing a plan. Do it sooner rather than later. Don't let the either behavior issue or the health issue get so big that people are already on edge. It's not a punishment. Keep it focused and neutral. It's a team project. Involve the Scout whenever possible. Sometimes they best know what they need to succeed. See how close you can come to accommodating that. It's usually not one and done, and the end game is a successful Scouting journey. We've developed a worksheet that we use in some places here in MCC. Believe me, it's not the only one. You're free to develop your own, but I do think the topics that are covered in it are important and you'd want to consider. And part of the follow-up, you'll receive a copy of this individual Scout plan, the worksheet to complete one, along with a very long list of contacts and websites from the National Committee for Disability Specific Information. This is the top of it. Who is it? Who's at it? What unit? What date? What's the overview? What's your concern? Tim never pays attention. Tommy is a wanderer. Meri has sleep apnea and needs to tent by herself. The next one would be going back, and I had trouble with this. I'm not gonna mess with this anymore. But the other seats talk about the specific incident that you're concerned about. What triggered it? Take a look, step back. What did it happen? What happened before? What could we have done differently? What might help to keep us in the future and not have to do it? Put out just a brainstorm. What are the possible things that we could do? Narrow it down to what's feasible. Sometimes it means having another person or adult with a scout, possible to be a parent, needs to be a joint effort, could be a grandparent, could be a buddy system in the scouts if another buddy is willing, could be that parent that is willing to come on a camp out fairly regularly, but doesn't really want, lots of little badges on their, and patches on their uniform. Could be a token system where if the youth is getting frustrated, they ask for a timeout. Could be a signal thing. Depends on the environment. But you put that down, you're going to try it, you're going to give a period, you're going to commit to trying it for a number of times. Might want to list the consequences for the behavior. You list what's going to happen and who's going to be responsible for monitoring it. We wrote one for a youth with the parent. He would do things and he was supposed to bring them back, and they had a very structured approach to when you could have your Scoutmasters conference and when you could request blue cards and that type of thing. Our little not too organized scout seemed beyond his ability to do that. So they developed a little checklist, and when he wanted to do one of those things or needed to do them, he would check that off and hand it into the designated adult at the beginning of a meeting, and then they would contact the scout during their meeting time to take care of whatever that business was. The agreement was that the parent before each meeting would again review with the scout what needed to be done. So this little checklist worked for them. It takes time. Remember, if it would work with just doing it once, it probably wouldn't have been a problem in the first place. So we're going to come closer and closer approximations to success and building steps to do that. Commit to a time to review it. The people who were there sign it. If the scout was not involved in helping to develop the plan, then parent and some leadership from the unit should sit down with the scout and explain what they've proposed to help with success, and listen to the scout's input. Again, it's a team project. We talked about the worksheet. You're going to discuss the second half of the worksheet is what's the area of concern. Where it says area of concern number, sometimes there are a couple things. You can use it for separate one for each of them or do them. But again, the process of exploring, of just brainstorming what might work is important in the agreement. How can you get support? Well, person to person is the best way. Your unit, the district, and your commissioner are all valuable pieces. Many districts have someone who is somewhat knowledgeable in some areas of special needs, and if the area of concern isn't their expertise, they may know someone to contact. Use it as a resource for you. Roundtables, University of Scouting, College Commissioner Science, or the National Service Territories have offerings and trainings. Take advantage of them when you can. You can contact myself or Jim Newell. We'd be glad to point you in the right direction or offer help if we can. Something new, and it's going to be growing. There's something called a Toolbox. At the moment, it's available at ablescouts.org, but it has been approved by Scouting National, and it's been developed by the National Committee on Special Needs and Disabilities. It is an online, you can fill out pieces of whatever you need. The intention is that there will be a toolkit for each of the many disabilities, one for working with parents, one for working with scouts, lots of ideas. But the two that are out now is an introduction, an overview of it, and the basics of scouting from a special needs perspective. I'd encourage you to take a look at them. The plan is to have one come out every couple of months, so keep referring back to there. There will be always current information. And for the first time, each of the units has been sent out to be reviewed by nationally respected organizations that are experts in whatever the topic in the toolbox is going to be. So the National Society for Autism took a look at the autistic unit. The Federation for the Blind took a look at another unit. Each of them has gone through special needs, our special needs committee, and it's also gone through legal and PR at National BSA. So it's pretty well thought out. It will replace, if any of you have found all I ever heard it referred to as the Green Book. It was a guide to working with youth with special needs. It was probably printed out 2.5, 3 inches thick. And the thought here is it'll be available to you whenever you want it, and you'll be able to zoom in and link to the information that you're specifically looking for. There will be, and I've seen the drafts of them, pages and pages of suggestions on how to modify things and what to do. So I encourage you to look at that. In the planning stages for 2022, the summit is going to do another training for those interested in particularly supporting leaders working with youth with special needs. CBASE is going to offer a training, and the National Service Territories are setting up some special needs trainings as well. I know our territory is tentatively scheduled to have one in March, and it's going to be again directed more to specific how-tos for specific disabilities. They're going to be focused topic trainings from the National Committee. They're going to go out regionally and offer, say, a training on autism one year and a training on health and allergy another time, and they're going to move it around the country in addition to what they do at the national training centers. All ready to go for 2022. If you've been aware, there have been some virtual special needs roundtables. They're going to continue to do those quarterly. Next one is in December. Philmont Training Center is already set up to do adaptive outdoor camping and along with special needs camping and the ZIA experience. And the ZIA experience allows a family along with a special needs, particularly significantly special needs youth to participate in the activities at Philmont and become part of the experience for the adults taking the adult training as well. So they were out rock climbing and with some very involved and health fragile youth. It's family camping. The dates are on the next slide, end of March, beginning of April. But what they will have at the Sawyer camp, you can sign up for as many days as you want, is that there will be people there to facilitate adapting things for families with special needs, scout campers. They've got fishing, they've got turtle things. You can sign up for as much or as little of it as you want. And through December 31st, if you register, they're holding to this year's fees. After that, the price will go up. So it's March 21st through April 1st, but you can go for 1 day, 2 days, whatever. And there will be support there for those with physical needs or mental challenges, and their families to participate in a very nice spring experience in the Keys. The ZIA, that's again for Scouts with special needs. It's up there. You are getting a list of resources, but this just touches them. You know about the Guide to Advancement. You know that at scouting.org, there's health and safety moments. They talk a lot about allergies and sensitivities in your youth, and that is a special need as well. There's the Advancement News and Digest and the Special Needs Abilities Digest. This is an important number, email address you might want to use. It's for Special Needs Chair. Pretty self-explanatory. This goes at right now, our current chair for the committee, the National Committee is Warren Warner, and he sends your question that you might have specifically about adapting something or questioning a situation to experts in the field for feedback. It's not, people get it, but you don't necessarily get an answer tomorrow, but they're pretty prompt. So you can use that for yourself or share it with parents. There, on scouting.org, there's a Special Needs and Disability Committee landing page has lots of information on it. Other helps, the Abilities Digest is both on Twitter and Facebook, besides the printed copy, which is at Able Scouts. No Scout Left Behind is a Facebook group. Well, that's not an official BSA group. It is monitored by people on the National Committee. So their information is pretty solid, and it's a forum. People talk about some things, so it's a great idea to explore some concerns that you may have. Brian on Scouting does a lot on special needs scouting as well. AbleScouts.org is specifically to scouting issues. Again, a lot of reliable information. This is what the landing page for the Special Needs and Disabilities Committee is. Abilities Digest comes out about 4 times a year. Always talks about adapting things. This was a recent one on swimming. Available as archives online, and to subscribe, you just send a little note to Special Needs Chair at scouting.org and tell them you'd like to receive that in your inbox each time it comes out. These again are the Facebook ones. Thought you might like to see what they look like. This is my plug. There is a Outstanding Educator Award. It is not for a Scouter, but it's for educational professionals from the janitor and bus driver up to the superintendent who exhibit Scouting values in their daily professional life. One is eligible to be given each year for every school in your district. It can also be a Council on National Award. It is something to look at. MCC is putting the final touches together on implementation, but in our area, it's going to be designated primarily as a district award with a certificate. So the cost of doing it is low, but potentially it is a way to start new units, perhaps a special needs unit at a special needs school or just the school down the street. It is in no way limited to special needs units or youth, but it's a nice tool in your box, and we all wear a membership hat. So this could be a very useful tool for recognition and school engagement. I thank you for all that you do, and I want you to scout us all in. We're here to help you in any way that we can. And then Corey or Dave or Jim, hopefully I kind of rushed through this, so we'll have some time for some questions and I won't have to make them up. So what does our chat say and what can we answer and talk about?
Midge, I've been following the chat, and I think most of them have been covered as they go through, as people coming up with. So at this point, it's pretty much clear.
Okay, well, hopefully you have not glazed over. I'm going to share for just a minute then a couple that have come in recently to us. There's a unit, I don't know much about the youth specifically, but I do know that the behavior is described as inattentive, difficulty in following directions, and hard time staying still. Indicates it's at a significant enough level that it is bothersome to some youth and some parents in the unit, and they are concerned with this and would like to require a parent to attend all scouting events, including meetings. As I say, don't know much about the Scout at this point. It's one that has recently come in. Certainly having parents attend a unit meeting and be there to support their youth is not an unreasonable request. My concern about getting to that position is that it not be posed as a condition of membership or participation in the unit. That rather than say you have to attend, we would have a sit-down meeting to talk about how do you suggest we handle this behavior? What do you do at home? What could we do here? How can you help us? If we come in as you must and make a contingency of participation up front as the starting point, there's little room for compromise and a large opportunity for misunderstanding and unhappiness. So we need to be careful and tactful in the way that we approach things. Hopefully that makes sense to you, and that you know where to find this information. Again, I'm going to go back to my Cub Scout days. I want you to raise your hand up high, take it over your shoulder, and give yourself a great big pat on the back. You deserve it. One, it's Saturday. It's, at least in my part of the state, beautiful. I do thank you for your time. I am sincere. We are here to help you. We can always use more little helper elves. Our committee always has a room to grow. Our mode of operation in this state is working through your district advancement committee. And a liaison to that committee would be appropriate. If you go nationally, there are other ways. Some places do it through commissioners. Philosophically, the decision was made a while ago that because so much of what may eventually need to be done depends on advancement and approval, that was a good place to keep track and to track people through. So contact your district advancement committee or us directly, and we'd be glad to help you. I'm going to steal one more minute, Perry. I want to talk a little bit about extensions. There is nothing that excludes a youth with special needs from being considered for an extension, but they need to meet all the requirements. The rationale for the extension is not because they're special needs. It may be a factor in it. It may contribute to it. For instance, you know, an extension is something that can't be foreseen. You may have an emotionally impaired, certified, someone who's in school receiving help, social work service, outside counseling, been going along just fine. There might be a death in the family, and they just kind of spin out of control, may or may not require hospitalization, but certainly had a period of time where the available bandwidth for concentration was not there. That becomes could become an extenuating circumstance because the impact of that loss was not foreseen. They may well not be eligible for registration beyond the age of eligibility, but they might be eligible for regular extension, just like every other Scout. So I don't want you excluding them from that. And likewise, I want you to realize that, again, can't say it often enough, registration beyond the age of eligibility for significantly impaired youth is not an extension for 6 months so they can finish their Eagle. It is recognizing a lifelong condition. You know, may well happen. Normally, it shouldn't happen close to their 18th birthday, but some families and units just don't know about it. So I don't want to ever say that everyone applying at 17 and a half will be denied. That's not true either, but you have to have the significant reason. The other thing to be aware of, because it may come in some of your other social organizations, is that someone with special needs can join after their 18th birthday. An adult can join Scouting with significant special needs at any age. So if you have a group home in your area, that may be a perfect place for a Scouting unit, and that's my membership hat. So do think about that as well, and we have people that can help you make those contacts and support them through starting a unit if that works for you. Again, thank you so much for your time, and I apologize for my technology ignorance at the beginning. I promise you it worked last night the first time. Have a great day. Thanks, Perry.
Midge, I
Yes.
actually have a question for you and maybe something you can comment on. First off, fantastic presentation, a lot of great information. But how would you suggest that you deal with potentially where other Scouts are feeling resentful, or as far as the accommodations being made for a special needs Scout? We're putting a lot of effort into enabling and helping the special needs Scouts, but more for the rest of the unit, so they don't, especially with the push for diversity, equity, and inclusion, we want to make sure that we provide the resources to the other scouts so they don't feel resentful or, well, why is he getting these accommodations and we don't, kind of thing.
Right. There are a couple things you can do, and some of it depends on the family and the personality of the scout. We've had units where the scout has done a presentation about me, almost as a thank you for the time you've given me, and this is what's difficult for me to do. It takes a pretty special kid to do that, but they're out there, and give them a chance. The other thing is, as a unit, you might take a look when the new diversity badge comes out. Certainly, there are some appropriate, and there are some resources on the diversity website for youth to share. It could be a focus thing for a small patrol training. I would start with your patrol leaders, your senior patrol leader, and the expectations of why. If you are comfortable and a good facilitator of youth, and many of you are, in a controlled environment, I'd start again with the patrol leaders, have a discussion about that, of what would work for them, what aren't they getting that they would like, what would make them feel more comfortable. Usually, it is the behavior issues and the attention one that people are more resentful of. They're far more likely and happy to pull a kid along in a wagon or do that kind of thing. When you do the buddy system, make sure it's voluntary and make sure it isn't the same person all the time. We've had some youth, parents who've actually paid a second scout to go to camp a second time with their son, or could be daughter, but at this point not, so that the buddy came along and at parents' expense. They wasn't a situation that they needed an adult, so that that duty was spread around a little more, didn't fall so much on the scouts in a unit.
Yeah,
just don't let it be an elephant in the room. Address
Right.
the issue in some way.
Well, and the All About Me presentation is a great idea. One thing we've tried in the past is doing walk a mile in my shoes. So if
Right.
it's like a physical disability, looking at dedicating a meeting where everyone wears, for example, everyone wears dark, blackout glasses, or everyone wears headphones where they can't hear anything. And just to see, here's what life's like, for that brief time, and what accommodations would you need to put in place to make that still happen.
Right. And there are a lot of things out there that are simple to do. There's one, and I couldn't figure out how to do it with us today. I often do when we do our presentation. I do a college, we do a few more hands-on things, but one where there's a set of color words and they're written in color, but not the color word and the color name don't match. That trips up just about everyone. If the word's yellow, if it's colored yellow and the word's blue, this takes a long time to get through. So there are those activities that talk about the sensitivity of needing help. And sometimes it just takes the leader to say, maybe what I do for Timmy or Meri is more apparent, but how about the times when moms have and dads have all kinds of things already set up for you, so you don't have to take the time to set them up. You're already, in some instances, doing a lot for the other kids. They just don't even see it. So subtly reminding them that they are getting some things is a good thing too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Midge, can I ask a question? When and where will this be available as far as for viewing by people not only who were on this call, but people they may refer to for information so they can watch it and write it down? There's a lot of information here, and I couldn't keep up with writing down the resources, so I would like to
Right,
review it
and
again.
the, probably Corey can answer that better, or Chris. We are recording it, so I know it's going to be available. There are some handouts that are going to be sent out, which is the list of, my list of organizations is much longer than I crowded my screen with. I just wanted you to have a taste
Okay.
that there's help out there. But Corey can probably tell us the when better.
Yeah, this video later next week will be online on our website. I put the link in the chat earlier, but I'll put it in again. It just takes a couple days to get it processed and uploaded by our marketing staff, but it'll be on our website all year. Last 2 weeks ago, the symposium that we did is already available.
Yeah, it's on the advancement webpage, so you'll find everything there. Mitch, I want to thank you. I like to
Thank
take
you.
5 minutes. 5 minutes. How about 10:25? You know, give you a chance to refill your coffee cup, and we'll start the next session. All right, 5 minutes. 10:25.
You stop screen sharing.
I think I'm viewing. Yeah, I think he stopped it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're good. I think Chris has already got it going, so we're good. Thank you, Mitch. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Welcome back. I want to go ahead and introduce our next topic. It's Scalp Book. And I know many of the Scout BSA troops are using Scalp Book and actually probably preaching to the choir because it's so important from an advancement perspective for your scouts as they work towards Eagle, losing advancement records. And so Scout Book has been in existence about 4 or 5 years now, and we are getting a lot of traction in their Scouts BSA. But what we find is an opportunity, especially in the Cub Scout. Folks that are entering into scouting to begin with, and we're trying to get them a little more familiar. So anyway, I have a short video to introduce. If there's questions, please put them in the chat and we'll try to get them answered. As I mentioned, Dave Weatherwax is here. Dave's been one of the original Scout Book champions for us in the Great Lakes side, and I'm sure if you have a question, I'm sure he can probably provide the answer, and if not, we can certainly get the answers back. So, all right.
Hi, this is Bill Nelson, and this will be a short video on Scalp Book. The concept behind Scalp Book is that it's a web-based tool and it can be accessed from devices you already have. That would be your phone, tablets, computers, anything that can access the internet, you can run Scalp Book on. Advancement can be signed off in Scalp Book by those who need to sign the scouts off. So those who are signing off, approving advancements for people can sign them off, and they can sign them off in real time by accessing their phone, getting on Scalp Book, and signing the scouts off. Parents and scouts can monitor the progress of their scouts also in real time, because as soon as you sign off on an advancement, a parent or the scout can see that that advancement has been signed off. At the same time, a scout or a parent can mark an advancement as completed, not approved, not signed off, but completed when they feel that they've done it. And then you can check, examine them. If they have done it, if they pass the test, you can sign them off. Scalp Book is owned by the BSA. That means that Scalp Book is positioned in the BSA to be the place to record advancements and to track advancements. That's the strategic tool in the BSA to track advancements. It integrates with BSA record database. Since it's a strategic tool, the database behind it is the long-term strategic database in the BSA to hold advancement records. This is an example of what a screen looks like with Scalp Book. This is the troop screen. A pack screen would be very similar. It shows kind of a summary of your troop, how many units, how many scouts are in it, how many leaders are in it. It shows the calendar events, upcoming calendar events. It grabs those out of the Scalp Book calendar and shows them to you. And then it also lists the patrols or dens that are in your unit, so you could click on those to see the scouts that are in your unit. This is an example of the scout page in Scalp Book. It shows a number of different things. It does show the rank the scout is in. This is for a Boy Scout, but the Cub Scout page looks very similar. So it shows the rank. It shows the percent to the next rank. It shows the parent underneath the scout's name. And if you click on that, you can go to parent information for the scout. It shows under advancement what ranks that the Scout has already earned, and either merit badges or advancements that the Scout has earned. And then underneath that, it shows awards. So any award, national awards that the Scout has earned, those badges show up there as well. On the right-hand side, if you keep going down on the screen, we're showing it on the right-hand side on our presentation here. It does show any outstanding items due that's in the payment log, and then if the Scout pays it off, that goes away. It tells their connections, which you have control as the administrator for your unit Scout book account, who has connections to the Scout and who doesn't. So you can give people different connection to different types of connectivity to the Scout. It shows, if you click on advancement, and we'll show that in a minute, you can drill down into the Scout's advancement. Same for awards. Leadership, any patrol or den leadership, you can put in there, or troop leadership, you can put there. Training for the youth, any training courses that he's done. Service log would be his service projects that he's worked on. Camping log would be camping. Hiking log, of course, is hiking. And then reports. Now, Scalp Book has, over the last year, over 2017, has developed a number of new reports that are available to the Scout. These are a list of a few of them, but in addition to these reports, we have an individual history report now. We do have reports for the payment log both at the unit level and the individual level. And the den level, we have reports on OA eligibility for the Boy Scouts. We have a lot of reports now that we didn't have a year ago. So take a look at the reports if you're interested in report writing. On the if you click on advancement, it drills down and it shows you where the Scout is. Now, you'll see these different check marks on the left-hand side of the advancements, and the check mark is an indication of where the Scout is as far as that rank is concerned, or that advancement is concerned. If it's a gold check mark, that means that it's been awarded. The Scout has earned it, and somebody has awarded him the award. If it's green, that means that the Scout or his parent or a leader thinks that the Scout has completed that rank or that adventure or that merit badge or that requirement. Does not mean they're signed off. This does not get recorded at council. All this means is somebody thinks that the Scout has completed it. It's like the Scout initialing it on the left-hand side of his handbook. A blue check mark here would indicate that a leader has approved the award, and only leaders can approve awards. Leaders and the actual administrator of the account can approve awards, and that's a blue check mark. And that is just like if the leader has signed off the Scout. So after the Scout is tested on the requirement and he is signed off, then it is approved in Scalp Book, and that check mark turns blue. It gives you a percentage of how far he's gotten on requirements, on ranks that he is working on. People like that. Same with merit badges, and the same with adventures. Drilling down a little further, if you click on a rank, it will bring up the requirements for that rank. Same for adventures, same for merit badges, same for awards. Now, it gives you a short explanation of what the requirement is, and it's the same type of check marks. A Scout or a parent can check that they have completed something, which means I think I'm done. And then a leader would go in, test the scout, and then if the scout passes his examination for that requirement, the leader would then approve the requirement. When he approves the requirement, again, the check mark turns blue in Scalp Book. And then that indicates to whoever is going to go buy the awards, let's say a rank has been approved, it says, okay, you now need to get this award. And there's a thing called a needs purchasing award, which needs purchasing report, which the administrator can run to tell them what needs to get purchased. There's also a needs awarding report that can be run by the leader to tell the leaders who needs to, where they need to go to approve awards. And remember, if you're going to approve an award or requirement, you need to test the scout for that award or requirement. You don't just go around approving them. That's like a signature in the book. It means that you have tested the scout and he's passed on that requirement. A little bit on privacy. I'm not going to go through all these points. Just know that privacy is extremely important for the Boy Scouts of America, and this software does comply with privacy regulations. Everything that's done in the back end is encrypted. Everything that's done through the internet's encrypted. Or I should say the passwords are encrypted on the other end. And so that if somebody actually hacks in the system, the passwords are not found. We don't store social security numbers in the system. We don't store internet advancement passwords. They're very careful with what they do store in the system and who gets access to it. Your local council enters all of their records into a database called ScoutNet PAS, and that's where they put in membership information and advancement information. Scout Book has its own database that we call Scout Book, and it is positioned to be the strategic database for all advancement records in the Boy Scouts of America. Currently, all registered scouts and leaders of units are in Scout Book already, so you don't have to add them. They're already there, and all of their advancement is there. As ScoutNet PAS is updated with membership information, that information automatically goes into Scout Book. If somebody at the council level enters an advancement or award, that advancement or award goes into the Scout Book database within 24 to 48 hours. On the other hand, Scout Book also talks to the ScoutNet PAS database. All advancement that you approve will go into the ScoutNet PAS database within 24 to 48 hours, and your council can see it. Membership information that is changed in Scout Book will not change in ScoutNet PAS, so it's only one directional for the membership. But for the advancement, it goes both ways. If you need assistance, we do have a number of user guides and videos that are accessible from this link that's being displayed here, bit.ly/Scoutbook. It goes to the Scoutbook forums, to a thread that's on the Scoutbook forums that has the user guides on it. If you do have questions, you can post them there. You can start a new thread there on the forums, and we do have volunteers monitoring the forums 7 days a week. We have volunteers on the East Coast and the West Coast, so we have very good coverage. You'll get a response within that day, probably, with some valuable information in it. The Scout Book Help Desk itself is at scoutbook.support@scouting.org, and they work Texas business hours. That's our short presentation on Scalp Book. Feel free to go to scalpbook.com, look around, see what it's like, and we would encourage all units to use it. And use a tool. If you're not using anything, use something to track your advancement.
All right, so that's a pretty short video. In fact, you'll find if you have access to Scalp Book, and every unit does, if you go into Scalp Book in the help area, you'll find there's a number of other videos that can help you. They've done a wonderful job in developing various videos, anything from printing out advancement records to for den leaders, for Cub Scouts. He's got one for Scouts BSA too, a detail for Scouts BSA. So there's a number of helpful videos on that. They've done a better job in terms of responding. So if you have an issue with your unit, they'd be happy to answer those and get back to you pretty quickly. So, and we do have a number of champions across both the President's Ford and the Great Lakes Division. Most troops have experts within them because they've used quite a lot. So please, if you have questions, please ask your folks. Start out with your district and then probably units around you. But we're kind of want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to use Scalp Book, especially our Cub units as they get online. So next slide. Again, there's where I want to talk a little bit about rechartering. Just briefly mentioned I mentioned it at the beginning, but the Scalp Book rechartering became live yesterday, so units can start looking at that. And I know all the districts are actually doing if they have not, some detailed training. So we didn't want to steal their thunder, but that's a concerted rollout across MCC. So each district will have information to support that. I do have a couple of folks online if there's any specific questions that you already have on the internet rechartering. Next slide. So let me kind of end it. A couple things. I want to thank the advancement group for pulling it together. We'll welcome any additional stuff. We'll look forward to us doing some additional training as we move forward probably in the early spring. But I want to thank the two vice presidents, Derek Stark from what was on the President Ford side and John Savage. It was their thoughts as we pulled together MCC as advancement. What are some opportunities that we can help all of our units with? These were the two first set of things that we thought were important. Overall advancement, and then also the Eagle part, which is important to most Scout troops. And then we want to move into areas that folks had a lot of questions, and include the special needs. And then we're always trying to improve Scalp Book. So anyway, that's all I have. Corey, is there any other thing in the chat we want to answer before we let folks go?
Yeah, somebody just asked, will the summer camp start entering merit badges into Scout Book, or are they going to keep sending lists out? No, that's not something that we're able to do through our summer camps. A lot of the merit badges that happen at camp are partials. So those have to go back to the troop anyway. We have the online Black Pug Blue Card system where units can go in and download their cards afterwards and process them themselves. But a lot of the merit badges at camp end up being partials, and the troop has to work with those anyway.
And I can provide a little bit of information on that too. So
sure.
with the Black Pug report you get, if you go onto your whatever browser you're using, and whether it be Chrome or Internet Explorer, you can download. There is a Scout Book feature enhancement that you can add on to your browser that allows you to import that Black Pug report directly into Scout Book. So it takes about 2 minutes to enter all your merit badges into Scout Book rather than the 2 months that you previously would.
Yeah, that's a
So,
good point. Yeah,
yeah.
I know most units who have that feature. You can upload it literally that quickly when you come back from camp. In fact, usually the camp will even give you the links and everything you need to do that literally within weeks after coming back from camp. Anything else?
Yeah, David, there's a couple other Scout Book questions in here.
Yeah, let me
Sure.
just go through them here. So how do I get administrator access to Scout Book for my troop? So first off, administrator access by default is limited to your key 3. So your charter org rep, your scoutmaster, and your committee chair. Now, though any one of those 3 can go into my.scouting and assign up to 3 people as delegates. And those delegates would also have administrator access. Let's see, advancement coordinator, again, that's going to be if you're assigned a delegate. Otherwise, you would get the permissions that are assigned to the default permissions that are assigned to the advancement chair, as long as you are registered in Scout Book with that role. Where in Scout Book can you find a list of merit badge counselors? So when you log into Scout Book and then select your troop, you can scroll down and you can either do it by merit badge or by all. And there's a link under the, I believe it's once you go into the troop roster, if you scroll down, there's a link that says merit badge counselors. You can also see it under the advancement.
I think it's the key 3 who have access to that. Not everyone does, right?
Correct. You would get it. You would also be able to get it if you go into an individual Scout's advancement and select a merit badge. There's a way then to invite a merit badge counselor.
Correct.
So they'd be able to view that as well. But remember, the merit badge counselor list in Scout Book is really the onus on the merit badge person for your district to make sure that that's uploaded and in there correctly. They still keep a manual copy or a physical copy of that as well. So you can always contact your district merit badge advancement chair to get more information on that as well. My requests for Scout Book help have gone answered. Is there a specific person I can talk offline with regarding this issue? Me. So let me put my information in the chat. I'll put my email in there and you can send me an email. Sorry, I put that to the wrong person. Let me go all panelists and attendees.
Sometimes there are people think that they have a Scout Book problem, and it turns out to actually be a registration problem where they're looking for a scout, can't find them in Scout Book, but it turns out that they're not registered or they're registered incorrectly.
Or the other thing I've seen with that, Corey, is when if a scout gets registered in Scout Book, but they don't have a membership in the unit. So you also have to double check that as well.
Right. So so if you're having additional problems that aren't necessarily Scout Book related, but are registration related, you can always, first of all, go to your district executive. And then this email address on the screen, support@michiganscouting.org, is monitored. And if the person who usually responds to that email, if it's not something that they can ask, they'll connect you. So sometimes they forward it to our registration services department. But if you think that maybe it's not so much Scout Book, but a problem with somebody's personal registration, those are 2 options for you.
So add on to the Scoutmaster G955 unit. You asked, is there a way to correct errors in the history of a Scout? It really depends on what that error is. So if it's specific to membership or tenure or things like that, yes, you can go in and modify those. But if it's related to advancement or those type of records, then in some of those cases, you would have to contact National and to have those changed, because those have already been recorded, and going back and changing that in Scout Book is very temperamental. I'll say that in the least. Eileen, the merit badge counselor list, I believe the search is limited to the Key 3 or Key 3 delegate. You can also contact your merit badge district merit badge advancement chair for that paper information as well. I think that was all of them. Corey, did I miss it?
I don't see any additional. On that question on history of a Scout, I also threw my email in the chat. I can help solve problems too. So if it's something where I can contact our registration department and see if they can edit something. Usually if it needs to be edited, we have to see some type of proof. Sometimes there's an issue where it was entered wrong, the date of something, and it holds up their EGLE process. But we can certainly work through those problems if we know what they are. We just need documentation along with the other information. So you can email those questions to us, and we'll work on getting answers. Sometimes it takes a little while. Like Dave said, it might be an issue where we have to contact National. It might be somebody locally in our registration department, but we'll figure out who to put you in touch with.
And really to finalize that, remember that Scout Book or any electronic tool that you're using to record this is simply an electronic tool. I would say the official record is their book, their Scout Book, or their physical book. So the back of that, where it's the signatures, that is the official record. And also Scout Book is changing daily. I've seen reports and all that added daily. And there are multiple Scout forums that you can go into in Scout Book and ask questions or do searches to look up things that you might not know as well. So there's a whole lot of resources online. So thank you.
Good. Hey, thank you, the panelists, for coming in this morning, and certainly our guests, the attendees, for spending some time with us. With that in mind, I'm going to give back an hour to you, and enjoy your afternoon, and appreciate you for coming. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.